about the importance of total physical response in the online and blended education. So it's kind of trying to combine two topics into one, because that's what we do. We try to make your world grow. Together with Cambridge, this is our main approach. And we are trying to make no limits to learn the language and to give possibilities to use the language and life competencies for your further studying and professional life. And today we have this kind of plan. So we will talk about total physical response, what it is, why is the body important in the language learning. We'll talk about some challenges of online education and benefits, and also blended education. And we will see how we can incorporate TPR in remote learning. So what is total physical response? I will start with such a picture. Do you know what's the country? Can you guess the country by the picture? France. Yep, exactly. And the next picture would be this. This is François Gouin. François Gouin is a linguist, and he lived in the 19th century, late 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, and he was struggling with learning German. He was trying hard and he failed. He couldn't learn German being a linguist. He was like using the dictionary memorizing method and so on and so forth, but he did fail. Till one point in his life when he was just watching his nephew telling a story about visiting mill in the country, and he was telling this story and in such a sequence, using a lot of movements and gestures and actually showing what he saw and acting out how the whole story happened to him. It was a real story about his nephew, and he was telling it, his nephew. And so Francois Gouin decided that, okay, this is how you can learn the language. And he realized that this series method, like you act out the series, what you're talking about, into sentences and sequence them, and that worked for him particularly. But this is how it all started. Yeah, this is how it started, and later it was moved into direct method and natural method of learning any language as the second language. And later on there was an oral method by Harold Palmer, where students just have to repeat everything, listen and repeat. And later on, in another on another continent, this is, do you know what's the state? Can you see what is the state here on another continent? Here on the picture. You can type it in the chat if you realize what's the continent. Anyone? It's definitely the USA. And oh, it's not Texas, it's not North America. North America, I guess, not so shiny. This is California, and at the University of California, James John Ussher created, and it was almost 100 years later, in 1972, he is considered to be the founder of the idea of total physical response. So he created this idea of total physical response and named it like this, as we know it now, as we use it in our TKT or CELTA studies. He made it into a whole method. And the typical TPR, as we shorten total physical response, it's TPR. The typical TPR sequence would be like this. For example, Julia, pick up a red box, give it to Mark. Then Mark, put the red ball in the box, walk to the door with the box, leave the box by the door. Then Maria, point at the red box, go to the box, take out the red car, give the red ball, I think I was meaning the red ball, give it to Mark. Then Julia, go to the board, draw a circle, and so on and so on. So these would be mostly classroom language sequences, and we still use it a lot with some instructions that we have in the classroom. Like clear the blackboard or the whiteboard, open your books, and we usually model what to do with these ideas. But at the same time, it's really teacher-centered. And I thought about this wonderful shot from the wall by Pink Floyd, from We Don't Need No Education song, because it's too teacher-centered, and it's only one of the critical things into the direction of total physical response. Despite this criticism, it is important. Physical response is very important because, first of all, it's learning through listening, which means that first, of course, we give commands to students, and it mostly works with younger students, with primary students. We give commands, and then it can lead to role playing, right? So it's not only for teacher, but also for the students who learn faster, for fast finishers, for mixed ability classes, it can really work well. You can think that it's mostly for listening, because it's learning through listening and developing fluency through listening, but also it can be used with speaking and writing, and it can be used with grammar-based exercises, especially with the verbs, right? Verbs are mostly used in imperative, but still, if we're talking about storytelling, there could be a room to apply TPR. If we talk about TPR, it's important to think of acquisition, because this is actually how any human being acquires the language, through the movement, through the facial expressions, through the gesture. This is how they acquire their native language. So it's a part of natural approach, and only through the body language would be the first actual language that people use, and on top of it we put the verbal actual language that we have, and so acquisition in while we're using TPR method, acquisition is more likely to happen in a natural way, the acquisition of the language, than we are trying to explain the concept. And it applies to primary student, but also it's possible to work with secondary and adult students using more TPR. You will see the difference from only teaching conceptually to teaching physically with more physical response. Interaction of right and left brain hemisphere. You know that concepts and movements are in different hemispheres, and the more interaction we apply while learning, the more likely students are to remember things and put it from the short-term memory to their long-term memory. Then stress-free environment. Usher says, for example, that when students use more of their body, when they respond physically more, there is less stress, because the main idea of TPR, especially these days, is to reduce the self-consciousness of the students. And again, it might apply better to primary students more than to adult students, because you cannot just ask an adult student, okay, take a paper and give it to Joanna. Joanna, put the paper in your bag, walk to the door and put your bag next to it. It makes no sense. Unless this is drama activity and students can interact with each other, like giving instructions to each other, like go 3 steps, turn left, turn right, with, for example, their eyes closed. And in this case, we will talk about this exercise later, how it works. But in this case, it might make more sense for adult students. Connected theories. I was already mentioning the natural approach, the oral approach, the direct approach, and actually TPR, if you use it as a separate method, it will not help you very much. You can only combine it with other language learning and language teaching theories, because if you use too much of this total physical response method, especially how Usher teaches it, it was 1970s, so it's a little bit outdated, and today physicality works a little bit in a different way. So it's important to combine it with other theories. The role of a teacher in TPR is mostly the central role. As I was mentioning that with the Pink Floyd picture, the central and its commanding role, because the teacher is constantly giving instructions and students have to respond physically, which is not very good for students' autonomy. So the role of the teacher is the most important here, unless you delegate this thing to the students. You model it as a teacher, and then you delegate to the students, and all of them try the role of the facilitator. Regarding the materials are widely used because Realia, using Realia in the classroom is definitely about TPR. And you can I think here I should have been talking about how you have to combine TPR with all the other methods, and I will just remind that this is the direct teaching, oral teaching, or natural acquisition. Especially with the natural acquisition, when you need to drill something, whether it's regarding pronunciation or grammar, when you make drills, TPR is really helpful. And yeah, criticism. First of all, it's more applied to primary students than secondary and adults. So you can definitely use it to the full extent with primary students, but then you have to combine more and more theories. The more complicated a human being becomes with age, the more complicated is teaching them. And at the same time, the biggest drawback of TPR is the central role of the teacher. And today we're working with student-centered classrooms. So with TPR, even though it's really popular to talk about it, it's been popular in 1970s in all the other world. Now, why is the body important for learning the language? Let's try an example. So look at the screen and name the colors as they appear. Okay, this can be an endless exercise with as many answers as possible. It was just to get your attention. Haha. But when you think about this kind of exercises, yeah, with the colors it's okay, but also there are more words than colors. We will keep working with colors. But if I asked you, even if we are here online, if we were in the classroom and it's not only me who was at the with the camera on, but all of you were with the camera on, I could ask you for during the lesson, like, to your camera, show me something pink. Uh-huh. And I'm already looking around. Okay, what's pink? A lamp. Lamp is pink. A cushion. I have a pink cushion. Okay. Show me something blue. I have a blue book here. Here it is, blue book. Uh, then I have these. Okay, something blue, something blue. Another blue book. Uh, Another blue book. The Scott Thornberry's 30 language teaching methods. This is blue. Now, and so on. It's more interesting for me here. I'm not very much in the screen anymore. I'm more in the space. I'm more aware of my own body and of my own surrounding. And so I'm looking around and I'm more present in the moment. Yeah, I um, start touching things, and this is what actually typical total physical response is. And I wanted to also ask you about this term. Have you ever heard of proprioception? Maybe this will give you a hint, and if you did, I will ask you to write it down here. What do you think is proprioception? To join, you need to scan the code or to Google slido.com and enter this code and write it here. We have one of the guesses, prediction. What else? Other guesses? Okay, any other ideas? I know it usually takes time. for everyone to go to Slido. So let's wait a little bit. Mirroring. Interesting. Yes, looked it up. Someone looked it up. Thank you. Connection between senses and knowledge. Interesting, could be. Movement. Okay, I think that that will do. Thank you everyone for entering Slido. The way you feel your body, yeah. The way your brain knows that you have the body. Awareness. Yep. Okay, moving on. So actually proprioception is the awareness of the body in space. It is the use of joint position sense and joint motion sense to respond to stresses placed upon the body by alteration of posture and movement. Why I wanted you to look this term up and to think about it so you memorize it. And it's really important because nowadays people, philosophers and big thinkers and all this body awareness theories are going further with the development of technology. We started thinking more about our body. So what about my body? Am I only the concepts that I can put online and communicate like that? Is it so? And of course you're not, but the problem is that we are less and less aware of what we are as human beings, right? And being aware of your body is really important. That's why there's so many popular podcasts and courses and things like that, promoting meditation, yoga, and things like that. But it's actually the case that our body is quite conscious itself. We as personalities, right, as human, not as human, but as personality, it's not my business to be aware. My brain doesn't control my body very much. They deal with it without my conscious presence, and which means that body has its own consciousness, and it works physically and biologically. It works that, okay, my toe on my foot tells me, hey, I'm here, I'm hanging in the air, and your leg is over your other leg, and that's the signal that is being sent to brain. And if you think about it, the body is quite a huge part compared to the brain, right? It's a lot of movements, it's a lot of things we do, it's a lot of positions we change. Yeah, and you can try it right now. Like, you change your position somehow in front of the computer, and try to catch how your brain receives these signals. It happens before you consciously think about it, which means that, yeah, your body is much more conscious than you are, and much more in a much better connection with your brain, which means that the brain goes through much more information with the body together. Then it's working constantly, yeah, to keep yourself straight, to keep yourself up with the gravity, yeah, not to fall down. It takes some strength, and it actually takes the strength of your mass, right? And this is the physical presence that that makes your brain work constantly. And this physical presence is quite separated these days from what's going on in our heads. Yeah, we can very often see kids in front of the laptops doing something they don't control. Like, for example, I have uncontrollable movement. Me personally, I have this uncontrollable movement with my hair, and whenever I catch myself doing this, I'm like, I'm stressed right now, so I either have to have a rest or to breathe better or something. And your body signals to your brain that we are having some stress, and so it's happening like this. Anyways, I stopped here too much. uh the awareness of the body in the space, it is important. It happens without you, but if you pay attention to this, it will be really rewarding in terms of language learning, because 70% of information that our brain constantly receives is the information from the body to the brain. And the rest is what we receive through the eyes, because this is a very little part of the body, and what we receive from the audio world. Yeah, and we memorize information that we receive from the eyes much better than from the body. That's because we're quite disconnected in the information era. We're quite disconnected from our bodies. And this is one of the biggest challenges of online education. And we do have to use the movement, because it is good for the brain to memorize things when you use movements and gestures. For example, I will give you example at the end of the webinar. Remind me, I will give you an example with getting to know exercise. Okay, challenges and benefits of online education. Of course, we all know challenges. This is internet and technology that can break down in any moment, and this is something we don't control at all. Students very often don't turn on their cameras. And this is a challenge, but we can deal with it. We can make it work. No physical interaction. No tactile interaction with other students, yeah, but there could be physical response, and we will see how it might work. No control of what students are doing. Teachers really want to control. And yeah, no movement, because we're mostly sitting. But isn't that true for every classroom? We're mostly sitting and learning, and we can change it even if we're working with the camera. And yeah, your option. There are loads of challenges, but when there are loads of challenges, it means that there are loads of solutions. And I will ask you to think about the benefits of online education. And if you think about a challenge, try to turn it into the solution, how it can be solved, and write it down as a benefit. So again, we're going to Slido, slido.com, or we just scan the QR code here, or we go to slido.com, enter this code, and write down what are the benefits of online education, how we can benefit from it. Okay. I see a lot of clouds, so the flexibility is the main word for everyone. Yeah, no distance, which is really, really nice. No distance. Children can attend from any part in the world. Full of learning digital materials. That's true. It's comfortable, not time consuming. That's true. Motivational for that generation. Oh my god, Z generation. Who are they? Is it from not millennials? Z generation, is it from 2010s? Okay, different resources. So mainly we have cozy atmosphere, flexibility, resources. Oh, you don't have to wear clothes. Like, I would argue here. Okay, access from anywhere. More interactive. Could be. Okay, you see, how cool is that? There are so many benefits. But what, I'm sorry, I have my presentation stuck a little bit. I don't know whether you see it. Ah, yeah, it works. But at the same time, we have blended education. And when we think of blended education, this is the combination of different types. Yeah, online, offline, and all the types of resources are involved here. And the key to a successful blended learning approach is to use the strengths of each medium appropriately, combining the two different learning environments in an integrated way so that each medium complements the other. And when we talk about blended education, we should start a little bit earlier. For example, in 1965, there are several dates. So 1965 was the time when Chomsky distinguished between competence and performance in language learning. For him, competence is the linguistic system of a language, whereas performance is the use of language. And this is where we have the PPP approach that was popular in 1960s. Presentation, practice, production. That was popular in 1960s, right? So we need to keep it in mind that, yeah, we still use it. We still use this triple model, but that was a really long time ago, in a very different time when not everybody had TV at home. Well, maybe in the US they did, but still, not everybody had technology, and that was important. Presentation was important back then, and it was the same in the Soviet Union, for example. Yeah, presentation was more important than actual job. How you present is more important than what you do. And we need to be careful with this model. It's still good, it still works, but we need to be careful that we use the language not to present, but we need to use the language to solve some other problems, or to create some concepts that maybe hasn't been created yet. Anyways, in 1972, Hymes started talking about communicative competence, and it took this distinction one step further by expanding the notion of competence to embrace what a speaker needs to know about how language is used in particular situations for effective and appropriate communication. So communicative method only appeared in 70s. And in 1975-76, there was this idea of discourse, and there was the discourse competence, and it was a part of communicative approach to communicate needs and share experiences. So it's not in the language, but something a little bit deeper inside of a personality and between people, about interaction, not just learning the language as it is. And in 1990s, the Council of Europe's Common European Framework of References created the Common European Framework of References as we know it now. From there, we understand what this communication consists of. How to teach, what to teach, where to use it, why to use it, which register to use, which communicative situation we have, and learning functional language for different levels. And different levels have different functions, and different ages have different functions. So this is what happened in 50 years. And we need to think a little bit that, okay, nowadays as teachers, where are we, right? Many of us are still in 1960s. Many of us are still in 1975, trying to get acquainted with communicative approach. And some of us are in 1990s, but in reality, we are now in the era of blended learning and more students' autonomy. This is important, and we cannot get away from it, right? We can resist and think that sitting in the classroom with the paper books is the best. Yeah, I'm the same. I think it's the best, but we can't get away from the reality with the new technology, and we have to adjust. So what are the benefits of blended learning? First of all, it's responding more appropriately to all the learning styles. We know that there are different learning styles like visual, oral, verbal, logical, and so on. And blended learning suggests a lot of different types of materials that correspond with the learning style of each student. Of course, it's a little bit more work for the teacher, and at the same time, the teacher can give more room for students to discover, and can give, since it's a more facilitating work, but not presenting, right? We need to manage the process rather than be a presenter of the language, representative of the language. Then a deeper approach to learning. Again, as you were mentioning, the resourcefulness of online teaching is huge. And blended learning means that while teaching, we're also using videos, audios, different types of, I don't know, podcasts, all the resources that internet can provide us with, and also different platforms. And so it means that we can dive deeper ourselves with different resources, and also students can get more autonomy with their research. Then more individual attention, considering the fact that there are different learning styles and students can study in their own pace better. We can give some of the students more attention in terms of what they would want to do in which way. Then maximizing social interaction in the classroom. That's what we need to remember. If there is, of course, the possibility these days to work in the classroom, even if it's like once a month or twice a month or twice a week, we maximize social interaction, because teaching concept could happen online, could happen individually by students. But what we should do in the classroom is to give them as much possibilities to communicate and to interact as this is possible, because this is the only way students can reveal their interpersonal intelligence. Now, creating confident learners. Of course, first we need to teach them think generally, think, and then think critically, and then be confident in what they research. But what it means in terms of creating confident learners, the second language, learning second language in the class might be quite an obstacle, with a lot of language barriers for different students based on their past mistakes or based on their past experiences. But if we're working online, and if they work with their partners online on some project, there is they find their own pace and learn their learn material in their own time, and so they can come to the class more prepared, and so blended approach is really both beneficial for the students' confidence, and they have enough resources to check themselves as well. Access to rich interactive input, I think it goes without saying, and encouraging discovery and fostering autonomy, we already mentioned this one. So these are the huge benefits of blended type of learning. And in this case, we should perceive all the challenges as the benefits for the future and starting at like educational and future professional life of our students. And blended learning in Ukraine these days, I just came back from Kharkiv today in the morning. So who was saying hello from Kharkiv? Hello to you. Yeah, and Kharkiv is I don't know, it's like the place of magic. Because what they do in Kharkiv is they teach in the underground. They do it twice a week, as I remember, and this is the actual case, unique case of blended learning in Ukraine. This is students. I think this is the first grade. Anyways, these are kids doing the total physical response exercise in English, and talking while talking to the teachers and students there in this metro school, they were saying that okay, that's the best part of the week, when they come together and work together and see each other. And this gives, this blended type of learning gives more value to actual social interaction. And this is important because when we go to school every day, I remember myself going to school every day was like, again to school. But these days, unfortunately, with crazy reasons and so on, but still, if we're thinking about, okay, how can we benefit from it, we can provide as much social interaction as possible in the class, whether it's possible and where it's possible, and as much autonomy, as much responsibility, like encourage students' responsibility when they are learning online. I will just check some response in a minute. Okay. Now, how to incorporate TPR in remote learning? First of all, I will ask you, what TPR exercises do you know? And yeah, again, this is Slido, so you already know the drill. I will ask you to either to scan the QR code or to Google slido.com and enter this code you can see on the screen and say a few words about what kind of TPR exercises you know. Okay, what we have here: neurogymnastics, move and freeze, games to show actions, Simon Says, games and songs with activities. Whole class, Simon Says. Okay, dramatizing. Okay. Oh, we have 3 Simons. Everybody knows Simon. And of course, I am not an exception, not to mention Simon. I think that's the first one I wrote here. Also, there is this exercise as an attention getter, but of course you can use it when you're working with the body parts. Like touch your head if you can hear me, touch your shoulder if you can hear me, touch your knee if you can hear me. And you can start with showing this, but then students still have to do it even if you are just saying this. This is the typical TPR exercise that that requires teacher giving commands or instructions to the students and students responding to that. But again, students can play it on their own and maybe start repeating after you, and then you just fade away and someone else takes over. And this can be easily done online. Then storytelling can also be done with some of the objects. For example, you can ask your students to prepare some objects for the next lesson, uh, whatever they are, and somehow to incorporate them into the storytelling exercise. And this can be done with the words for learning the new lexical material. And this is again the drama exercise. For example, you can ask students to choose any object and to tell a story from the perspective of this object. I have the stone. And then it might be weird at the beginning, but then it's even easier for students if they just hide and watch the camera what's going on. Like, hello, I'm Mr. Stone. I come from Volcano. That's why I'm so black. You see, in this case, I definitely turn on my camera and I have fun because I don't see my face. I just see my hand and do something. And it can be interestingly done when you have the whole classroom. Okay, I'll be back. When you have the whole classroom and there is such a function where you can pin people on the screen so they can interact with each other. You know, like going here or here and talk to others in the Zoom room. Okay. And again, it's a lot of fun working like this. We usually had lessons like that for drama school during the COVID at the beginning of the war. And there are lots of very strange things you can do to for students to have fun, for yourself to have fun, and to actually involve more of the body into your lessons. Like you can ask your students to create an effective appearance in the classroom. Like I don't know, that's what we did, like appearing slowly, you know, or appearing from a side, or appearing like this, you know. So this is this might sound a little bit distracting, but it really works well with the storytelling because it involves more of the student's body and attention, and they have to keep their cameras on, which means they are engaged, involved, and most probably more motivated. Songs plus movements also can work online easily, and you can ask your students to turn to such a position where they can do the movements. They can stand up and do the movements and still see themselves in the camera. But also, if there is no possibility for some of the students, they don't want to show their rooms, and like me right now, I don't want to show you the mess in my room. It's not, but for example, they can use I don't know, something else for that, to do some movement, or they can use another. Where do I have it? I had a toy, but I lost it. But they can use some other personality for that. It can be a stone to do the movement, or this can be, here it is, the toy, who will do all the movements instead of me if I don't want to stand up and go further. I'm still physically involved and responding. Mirror exercises, again, this is something that one of the students start doing in the Zoom room. Here it is. And others have to repeat. We did that a lot again with the drama students. But what can be done, as I promised you, the getting to know lessons. It might be again getting to know a character, not specifically a student, but everybody should say something and make a movement, and then it goes as an avalanche. Movement adds to another movement, to another movement, and so the last person has to repeat all the movements. And this is a game for memorizing, so movements make sense only in memorizing. For example, I'm the first person, we are, I don't know, learning fruit and vegetables. Okay, so I'm the first person to say any fruit. So I'm saying orange, and I have to make a movement for orange. For example, orange. Yeah. Then the second person has to repeat my movement and say my word, orange, and then add their movement and a word. For example, the second person says apple, like apple. Yeah. So the third person goes orange, then apple, and then adds something else. For example, cucumber. Can't see cucumber or cucumber. And so students make their own movements, and the last one, of course, has to repeat all of the movements. And then the first one has to not the first. You can swap them and ask them to do everything in a different order. Like look at all the students. recall their fruit or vegetable and movement and try to repeat all that. So this is another possibility to work with total physical response online. And yeah, working with objects also is a great thing. You can make up, again, it's work with objects goes with storytelling the same way. For example, you just describe something around you, and you have to touch it, you have to show it. Okay, now